I think it was a lot easier as a teenager because I, went to church every Sunday with my family. And it was never like I was made to go. Like, even if my family didn't go, I was there. I just enjoyed it. It was routine. So I went to church on Sundays. I went to youth. I helped with the children. I did children's sermons, things like that. So I was constantly almost having to stay connected and keeping my faith going and things like that. But yeah, I think it was definitely easier as a teenager than it was in college, but I didn't live as a teenager during these times. So it's a little bit different, I think.
So you were very involved in youth group. But would you say, how important was youth ministry for your faith, I guess? Like, why was it important for you to be there? But what did you do outside of being at youth to stay connected to Jesus?
I think youth was easy for me because I had friends there, and you were there. But it was basically like it became this big family to where it kept me wanting to go. But each week, too, I was also growing in my faith. I was able to ask deeper questions. But outside of that, I would try to do devotionals and things like that. Sometimes I like routine and I like structure. So
really
a lot of times it's easier for me to follow a devotional and would you be proud of me? I've actually kind of gotten out of that and I've been reading more.
Good.
Anyways, I would have a certain time of day that I would read my devotion and things like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I would stay connected as a teenager. I think it was a lot more difficult because, well, one, I didn't have a youth group, but two, I also didn't have a church family at that time.
Right.
So I was trying to maneuver being a college student, making new friends, living not at home, and trying to stay connected to my faith.
Right.
But the main thing I learned was I had to be intentional. It was on me now. I didn't have someone saying, Taylor, did you read your Bible today? Taylor, did you do a devotional? Taylor, how are you in Jesus? I just didn't have someone like that weekly like I did when I was in church. One of the best things I did was I would get together with friends and read. Find almost accountability, but also just people to do life with. To kind of talk about those things and study together and things like that. But it was hard. It took me a while to actually get in a routine and get back in church and things like that to continue to grow my faith.
Okay. What were some things that you went to besides small groups that kind of encouraged you in your faith? So I know that you said you didn't have a church family at that time. So did you go to things on campus that encouraged you? Did you have what did you read with your friends as you guys were doing those things?
Yeah. So on campus they had Dimensions, which a lot of people roll their eyes at. But a lot of that did, sometimes that was my only weekly connection that I had with Christ during that time. So that kind of helped me. I would try to go to different churches, but I would never like to go by myself. So I'd try to get with friends and go. We did a study, I want to say we did one in Red Blue Like Jazz, I think my freshman year.
One of the best books ever.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. But I'd already read it, but reading it again, kind of you find new things every time you read. So I did that. It's hard to remember freshman year.
So long.
I do feel like that was, I don't know. Yeah, I did just a bunch of little things until I could finally get into, I did a devotion type thing, until I could kind of get in a routine and figure out what it was going to look like. I'll back it up just a little bit to 2019.
Okay.
So 2019 was also a little bit difficult. So basically how student teaching and stuff works is you start freshman year, I started education class. So you start with this little group of 4 professors, and your goal is to get as close to them as you can, because by senior year, they're grading your student teaching. They're watching you teach and things like that. So I got really close to those professors, and then right before my student teaching, they all left. And so it was I had...
That's not how it's supposed to go.
No. So I had these new people coming in that I didn't want to trust and I didn't want to. And I got placed with a very difficult supervisor. So I was very nervous and it was hard for me to trust God. Then all of a sudden me and my supervisor got along super well. We hit it off. Student teaching was not easy by any means, but it worked out the exact way it was supposed to. Then senior year, I was living on campus. Me and my roommate that I had been roommates for with for 2 years was wonderful, but we couldn't live in a dorm while we student taught. So I had to find new people to live with. And so I'd find someone and then they would back out. I'd find a different person and then it wouldn't work out. And so it was hard again to trust. Well, then I ended up living with my best friends that were student teachers at the same time. Like, it's just, I'm just learning to trust God in the process. I interviewed for a lot of elementary positions that I did not think I was going to have to do. Ended up at my first pick. Like, it's just amazing how things work out exactly how they're supposed to. Not the time that I want, but exactly how it's supposed to. So I really think that when all this is over, we're going to look back and be like, wow, we got so much time with family. Or, wow, I was really able to spend time with Christ, because I'm being able to do that a lot more intentionally than I would have if things didn't work out this way.
Right.
So I think we're eventually going to look back and be like, wow, God really carried us through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have to say my dad always told me growing up Colossians 3:2. And we would like send it back and forth through like texts as I got older, or he would tell me like in the car on the way to school, but set your mind on things above and not on earthly things. And I think now that's even more important, because it's so easy to get caught up in everything going on. Right. But focusing on Christ is what's going to get us through. I have one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
You didn't ask, well, I think you asked me and I didn't answer it. But like, what encouragement I would give to them.
Yes, what encouragement would you give to them? I'll just sit back now.
Okay. One thing that I would just, thank you for that. I was a little, I felt so low.
Yeah.
One thing that I would just encourage you to is like, even though during this time, like you can't be with others as much as you would, reach out to your friends in youth and check on them, and your friends from school and your friends from sports and things like that, and see how they're doing. You can Zoom, like you can always Zoom, you can always FaceTime. Find a good devotional. If you don't know one, John knows several, but I also have some that I've used, so you can contact me or get my info from John.
Right.
But do something to stay connected with others and not feel isolated during this time, because I know that's easy to do.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Thank you, TT, and you guys have a good one.
Bye. Oh.
All right, here we go. Take 4. Hello, First Baptist Youth.
Probably, I don't know whether to look there or
it don't matter. They're just looking at us, looking at them and each other. Taylor, you just want to tell them a little bit about where you grew up.
That was not on
it
the
was
script.
not. It's not scripted. That's not how it's supposed to go.
No. Which was a little crazier than I expected, which is why you haven't seen me in 5 ever. But now I got a job at Boiling Springs Elementary as a 3rd grade teacher, so I'm prepping for that, whatever that may look like, and living my best life.
You said that they haven't seen you in whatever?
5 ever, like more than 4 ever. 5 ever. Like, you know, if people don't have a forehead, they have a 5 head. Like 5 ever.
Do I have a forehead?
Easily. Yeah, you kind of do have a forehead.
Do I have a 5 head?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, anyway, so.
I definitely have a forehead. I have a 5 chin.